Here's White versus the Pirc, lesson 5. This is an interesting game, actually, where Black won. So we have e4, d6, d4, knight f3, or knight f6, knight c3, g6, f4, bishop g7, knight f3, c5, bishop to b5 check, bishop d7, e5, knight g4, e6, f takes e6, knight g5, bishop takes b5, knight takes e6. Now the other move that has to be examined is queen takes g4. John Nunn tried this a couple of times, but eventually admitted that it wasn't good enough. Black should now reply bishop c4, and this bishop c4 move is better than bishop d7, as it keeps the d7 square free for the king. Now Nunn's game continued. b3, and this is important because knight takes h7. Black can now just play king d7. b3, bishop takes d4, bishop d2, bishop d5, knight takes d5, e takes d5, queenside castle, and now knight c6 is the best move. So, rewinding a bit, and we have here knight takes e6, bishop takes d4, knight takes b5. And the best move here, as we said before, is knight takes d8, and the famous draw by repetition of bishop f2 check, king d2, bishop e3 check, etc. Are there any other tries for white here? Not really. Black has a good game after knight takes d4, responding to it with bishop d7. And same situation if queen takes g4, bishop d7. Knight takes b5, queen a5 check, queen d2. The first point to note is that the obvious move, bishop d2, loses to bishop f2 check, as now black gets to take the knight with check. The other move at white's disposal is c3, when the following long variation, which is still relevant, was given by Serwin in his notes on the prototype game with Sachs. Bishop f2 check, king d2, bishop e3 check, king c2. Remember, white is trying to avoid queen takes b5 check. Queen a4 check, king b1. Now this is a better move than a move like b3, which ends up with queen e4 check, king b2, knight f2, and that's good for black. King b1, queen e4 check, queen c2, queen takes c2 check, king takes e2, bishop takes c1, king takes c1, king d7, knight e c7, a6, knight takes a8, a takes b5, c4, b takes c4, and the strange move of king takes c1 is explained by the fact that black would have had the ability to play knight e3 check if the king was on c2. Knight b6 check, king c6, knight takes c4, b5, knight d2, rook f8, g3, g5. And here we see good compensation for the exchange. Oof. So let's back up about 13 moves. We've got here queen a5 check, queen d2, bishop f2 check, king d1, knight e3 check, king e2, queen takes b5 check, king takes f2, knight g4 check, king g3, king d7. So now in the early days of this line, black used to play queen d7, but it didn't fare so well. Then Chairman discovered the improvement knight a6, which was based on the splendid idea of king takes g4, whereas the correct move here would have been for white to play rook e1 with a roughly level game. But if he goes after the if he goes after the knight, king takes g4, queen d7, rook e1, knight c7, queen e2, king f7, f5, g takes f5 check, king takes f5, rook a g8, and with black playing rook g6 to come, black is going to recoup his material losses with advantage.